that big. That's a good thing, right?
We want to find you.
Right.
I was thinking we're gonna be like in front of like.
Does this thing need to be plugged in or something?
It's
It's
on.
streaming.
It's good. It's unmuted. Okay.
That doesn't make me nervous at all.
Perfect. All right, are we ready to roll? All right, well, welcome. I am Dr. Amanda Crowe, and I'm the Entrepreneurship and Small Business Management instructor here at MCC Longview. You guys may or may not know that the U.S. Department of State has declared November Entrepreneurship Month. And the second week of November, every week, is Global Entrepreneurship Week. This is a time to celebrate and empower entrepreneurs in every country and community around the world. Now, it's designated to encourage potential entrepreneurs, especially young people, to start their own businesses. Since 2008, KC SourceLink has been a leader in putting together the KC Metro's largest celebration of entrepreneurship. Well, today, we're going to also do our part here at MCC Longview. So I'm excited to share this panel of entrepreneurs and their years of combined experience and lessons with you guys. Before I have the panelists introduce themselves, I have some small housekeeping items for you. As questions arise throughout the panel, please write them down, or for those of you guys online, post them in the chat. We have some note cards here up front and some pens. And at the end, closer to the Q&A session, we'll collect your note cards and we'll share your questions with our panelists. Okay, we do have a fourth panelist. However, she did have class up at Maplewood, so she is still en route. And just as soon as she's here, we'll have her introduce herself and jump right on in with the rest of the panelists. So I would like to have each of the panelists introduce themselves, and we'll start with Shaun Ashley. And could you please provide your first and last name, the name of your company, and just a brief overview of who you are and what your company does?
Sure. So my name is Shaun Ashley. I'm here with ReMax Heritage. I run a small team in the brokerage called the Shaun Ashley team. Like I said, we're out of Blue Springs. We service the entire Kansas City metropolitan area, both Kansas side and Missouri side. So we are a team of real estate agents. I've been in the real estate business for 15 years. I've ran my team since 2020. Last year, we sold about 250 homes as a real estate team. So.
My name is Danisha Corbin, and I am the owner of a construction company called Corbin's Construction. And we do anything from, we can build your house to build a hospital.
Nice.
Wow. My name is David Green. I'm a regional vice president with Primerica, and I've been with Primerica since 2016. Me and my wife, she's here as well. We've been in business with other business ventures like daycares and barbershops. And I also was an educator for 19 years. And I just wanted to make some extra money. It started off wanting to make some extra money, and then it turned into a career change because I seen the needs of what we do through financial services. One point I want to make to you guys, as an African American, less than 2% of African Americans do financial services. Well, if you don't have people that do that type of business that you trust, that you know, that you believe in, that community falls to the wayside. So when I started to look at the numbers, being an ex-history teacher, I looked at the history. Anything I do, I look at the history. And I started looking at the histories of financial services in different communities. And I seen that there was a disparity in African-American community. So I took this thing to the next level. And I run a small team of about 12 different business partners that's growing our business. But we mainly try to work with people that have no idea about what it means to have investments, what it means to have proper life insurance, what it means to be an entrepreneur, because not only will I help you, a lot of people, my clients, they also become business partners. So this is an amazing, amazing business. And Anybody that's looking to do something big, I want you to understand this last thing. Financial services, you can Google this. Financial services is the #1 industry that's produced more millionaires in modern times. So just want to throw that out there.
I did forget to mention how long. So we actually are in the, I would say, the toddler phase. We've only been in business for about 2 years. So we're still like learning the business as well. So
All right, well, thank each of you for introducing yourselves and sharing a little bit about your businesses. What I want to do now is take a deeper dive into the journey of each of these entrepreneurs. For my panelists, please feel free to answer any of the questions that feel compelling to you. And if it doesn't feel compelling or it doesn't apply, then you can feel free to pass or skip on answering that question. So we'll start off with the panel questions that I have for you guys. Okay, so what was the inspiration for your business and how did you get started?
Let me start. So my inspiration, so I've owned several businesses in my adult life. One of them was an internet web hosting company. In 2008, we were doing very well. And so we seen the real estate market kind of going south. So we decided to start investing in real estate, buying the homes, fixing them up, renting them out to people, and then doing it all over again. So I got my real estate license to help in that process. And then it just kind of became its own thing. My brother wanted to buy a house. My best friend wanted to buy a house. My friend who I got into business with decided to become a lender. So he started referring people to me. So it just kind of grew into its own thing. I did real estate part-time in addition to running the hosting company through 2016. When we sold that business, at that time, I felt like I was different from a real estate perspective because I wasn't desperate. A lot of real estate agents are desperate because you only make money if you sell a house. So I felt I was different because I wasn't desperate. So in 2016, when I sold my business, I was at a crossroad. Do I continue with real estate only, or do I go work somewhere else? So I went and became an IT recruiter because I thought I knew IT really well. I had a lot of connections in the Kansas City market. And it was honestly the worst year of my life because as an entrepreneur, you work for yourself. Going and working for someone else that dictates what you do, it kind of stinks. And recruiting, it's a very tough job because you're calling a candidate at the same time as 50 other recruiters are calling them about that same job. So I was able to do it for a year. And at that point, I had done business with another real estate agent in the market, and he was recruiting me to become an agent at his office. And after the first 3 calls, he called me again on a 4th time and said, "Are you free for lunch?" And I'm like, you know what? It's lunch. What's it gonna hurt? So we went to lunch, and during lunch, he was asking me my background as a real estate agent, asking me how many hours a week I worked. And I let him know I only sold real estate part-time. And so he asked me what else I did, and I let him know I was a recruiter. So at that time, he was actually hiring a recruiter for his office. So I joined his office as the recruiter, as well as a real estate agent. And then my business just continued to grow. I added people under me to help me because I was recruiting and selling real estate, both full-time jobs, part-time. And so I did that until 2020. And kind of grew my own team. In 2021, I stepped down as the recruiter because my team grew substantially at that point. And from there, here we are. I focus solely on running my real estate team, continuing to grow that each and every day. This week alone, I've had 3 agents join my team. So that's kind of how I got into it. With real estate, it's a career that every day offers a new challenge, a new learning experience, and at the end of the day, we get to help people every day. So
my situation is a little different than that, for sure. My husband and I own this business together. I'm the beauty and the brains. He's the labor, And so how we ended up starting it is he works for another company full-time. That's his full-time job. And COVID hit, things hit, and he was like, "I'm going to go get me a server position." And I'm like, "To heck you are. Like, you have a skill set. You have something that we can capitalize off of." And so we had been talking about it for years. And so what inspired us the most was, I'm like, I don't want you to go and be a server or do any of that whenever you have such a skill set that not a lot of people have in carpentry. And so it took my little nudge to, go ahead and get the PO box, get the LLC, name the company, get the cards, get the shirts, get all this stuff made and get him to actually do it. So then finally, once he jumped ship, he was just like, okay, I can do this. We can do this. And so that was our inspiration, was really, I didn't want him to go out and be a server, like as an extra job or anything, whenever I felt like he capitalized off of his skill set. And so I handled the books, the scheduling, the marketing. I mean, I do all of that stuff. And he's more the skilled laborer that goes out and works or bids on the jobs and builds the jobs and does all the stuff and I've gotten out there though. I've gotten out there and I've helped him build a house. I'm not scared of getting dirty. And he was actually surprised by my work ethic there. So then before we knew it, it was literally, phone call after phone call, people wanting stuff done, people wanting this done, jewelry stores. He does hospitals now, like every hospital that you've passed, it's not Corbin's Construction that does it, but my husband is probably who built it. Like he builds hospitals, he does all of that. So it was like, we just decided to take his skill set and capitalize off of it as much as we could. And like I said, we're still in the toddler phase of it, but it's definitely going well.
It's a beautiful story. I kind of gave my inspiration already, so, but I got a question for her. Can I ask?
Yeah.
Were you doing something else different?
Oh yeah, so I don't
And
look
then you
like,
decided to,
I still actually am doing my job. So I do have a day job as well. And so my business is ran primarily for me at like nighttime or on the weekends or, even at work sometimes, but in the daytime, during the day, every day, I'm a police officer actually. So that's what I do during the day, but it's gotten to the point now where I'm slimming my hours down on that so I can focus on my business and things like that. And plus this is my retirement plan. I don't want to be out on being a police officer on the beat the rest of my life. It's only getting worse out there these days. Everybody knows that for police officers and things like that. And it's just not as a respected job any longer as it used to be. And so, yeah, this is also my retirement plan.
okay. I was wondering, because my wife joined me, so I was wondering if you do the same thing,
Mhm.
so. Okay.
I love it. So now you guys are gonna kind of make me shift gears to a question that wasn't on the list. So, you've mentioned that your wife has joined you. You've mentioned that you've joined your husband. Shaun, do you want to share how your wife interacts with your business?
Sure.
I'm
So,
sorry to put you on the spot.
no, you're good. You're good. So, in 2021, I looked at my books and I seen the amount of money I spent on staging homes to sell them. And so my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, is on my team. And I told her one day, hey, why don't you keep an eye on Facebook Marketplace for some furniture and let's get a storage unit and let's just build up our own staging inventory.
Mhm.
And that was the only conversation we ever had about it. About 6 months later, my wife comes home one night. She's like, hey, my sister and I started a staging company. So my wife and sister-in-law own a staging company. So yeah, they stage the majority of my listings for me. And then she works full-time at a dentist office as well. So yeah, she helps me. So I have my sister-in-law on my team. My dad helps me. My mother-in-law, my wife's mom, is at my brokerage. My brother, sister also have a team at my office. So it's very family oriented. But yeah.
We get our kids out there too.
Yeah,
That's right.
for sure.
Family business.
Yes. Yes.
I had to ask just because I love the family interaction and the partnership aspect of it. The partnership piece is very important, and having a supportive partner seems to be very important to the success of your business.
Without a doubt.
For sure. So my next question is, did you always have an entrepreneurial spirit? And as you've progressed on your entrepreneurial journey, how has your entrepreneurial spirit or your thoughts about entrepreneurship changed?
I'll start on that one. What I'll say, I didn't. I had an employee mindset. I didn't have entrepreneurs in my family. I didn't have people that had their own businesses. Everybody had jobs. And so that was my endeavor. I wanted to, first I started out working construction, and then I quickly figured out that when I'm 40 and 50, I probably wasn't gonna wanna pick up heavy pipes and bricks and be in that type of environment. Then I realized that I wanted to work with children. I wanted to work, I used to be in education. And so again, being in education, I never thought about getting a business or I was gonna work as a school teacher, be a football coach. I did all those things, but then during the process, my wife wasn't liking her job. And so my daughter's 21, she's a senior at Missouri University. And when she was pregnant, when my wife was pregnant with my daughter, she said, we was watching the news one night, and there was some children got hurt in the daycare. And we were looking for daycares at the time, and a child that got hurt in a daycare on the news. And I looked back at her and I said, I don't think I want to send her to daycare. I said, what do you think about starting? Maybe one of us, I think she might have said a daycare about starting one. I said, let's do it. And so we kind of what you did. She started doing all the groundwork of so that was our first business. Well, in that process, I had saved a little bit of money. We were going to get married as well. So we had broke the money down in 3 parts. We got married with a certain amount. We started her business, but then I started a barbershop with another friend. So we both had businesses. I still was working as a school, building up my, I was still in school also, was going to school. And so we were running the daycare. I was going to school, I was working. And then we had it in our home at first. It was easy in our home, but then she wanted to get a building and we expanded. And then that's when our business really took off. She really took off. I'm be honest with you, I tell my wife this, I joke with her. I didn't think she was gonna do good at first. But then this lady went off and just took the skills to another level. And she really inspired me to want to be more entrepreneur, because every day I went to work, I didn't like, working for other people. And she was entrepreneur. She was calling me, I'm on lunch. I'm running errands. Cause we had a staff. And so she was like, you should really start, looking to get, so the barbershop ended up not working out, only stayed around for a couple of years, but her business was growing. And so she kept telling me to keep looking for, stuff to get back to being an entrepreneur. And so this came around in 2016. And I'll say this, you said, what was your inspiration of wanting to be an entrepreneur? Working at an inner city school. I don't know if you guys know about Hogan Middle School. It's a little tough, and I had 3 different principals in 5 years. And so the new principal that came in 2016, and we had a rough last week of school, and he had made a comment that we needed to get ourselves he came in and changed a bunch of systems that we had that worked. And I didn't want to work bottom line, I didn't want to work summer school that year. So I started doing this part-time. Well, I made $8,000 or $9,000 my first month of really paying attention. The next month I made nearly 10 grand. Now school started that year, August of 2016, I believe it was. School started like August 20th that year. I was already over $10,000 in a month. And so she said to me, she asked me, she said, are you going back? And I was like, I was always going back. And then when she answered me that question, something clicked. I was like, no, I don't think I want to go back. But I had signed my contract. Well, in those 3 months, I got my school checks from being paid year round, and I made nearly 30 grand. I had probably $35,000 in the bank. I had never had that kind of money at one time. And so I said, no, I'm gonna pay the buyout. So I had a buyout of $3,000. And they was like, well, if you don't take the contract, you gotta pay it. I wrote them that check for $3,000, and I never looked back. So, and at that time, I had never made 6 figures in my life either. Being in education, you don't make a lot of money. 2018 is when we first went over 6 figures, and to never make 6 figures. Now she was making 6 figures in daycare, But me as a school teacher, I was making $60,000 a year, 67, 68. Even that's with coaching football, coaching basketball, track, before and after school, detention, ISS. I did all those every year for 5 years. I did every one of those jobs to make extra money. And like I said, my first full year, I made over $137,000 in this company. So that was the principal pushed me over the edge. So that's my story. That's how I got full-time in entrepreneurship.
Oh my
Is this the
goodness.
young lady?
I am. Oh, so excited. Sorry, I was teaching. Came from my voice.
You wanna go next?
Sure. What was the question again?
I'm sorry, so did you always have an entrepreneurial spirit, and how has that developed over the years?
Oh, goodness. So for me, I always knew I didn't want to work for people or someone. I have such leadership qualities in me to where, and I have so many ideas. And so I just didn't ever really have it in me. And I don't even want to admit that like I have it in me now. I'm kind of learning every day that I'm enjoying it more and more, but I wouldn't, so I think it's always been like in me, but I don't think that I ever knew like what it would entail for me to actually to do it. And so for me, it was more just like sitting back in my growing up in my household. I'm the only one that graduated college. I'm the only one that did, that went forward. And so for me, that was one of those things to where when I started having kids, I want to create generational wealth with my kids. I want to leave them something behind. I want to leave them a legacy. I want to leave them things. And so that's whenever my husband, I met him, and we've been together for 12 years now, to where it wasn't instilled in me. It was just one of those things where I saw the opportunity to capitalize on something and we went with it. I hope with everything I have, it lasts as long as it can. But eventually it is hopefully to end it where I can actually focus on it full time and not do police work, because I'm working on my retirement plan, my generational wealth, to leave something behind for my kids.
So I would say I have always had an entrepreneur mindset. My grandmother, God rest her soul, was an amazing woman. She was an entrepreneur. So my entire childhood, she owned an antique shop, and this woman could go garage selling and pick up a $30 item and turn around and sell it for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. She just had this eye. So I went with her all the time as a child, and I would go and get video games and turn around and sell the video games to my friends, or baseball cards and sell the baseball card. And then I had a younger brother that always had the knack for, hey, let me have that. You don't really want that. And I turn around and sell it. So it wasn't really nice of me to do, but I did it to him. I support him really well now, but back then I did not. But yeah, I think I've always had it. And like I said, my grandmother was just a great example of what hard work would do. I didn't come from much. My family struggled financially. I have 12 siblings, and I'm the second oldest of those siblings. And it's very blended. My dad has 9 children with 3 women, and then my mom and stepdad have 1, and then my stepdad had 3. So coming from that, I didn't get to start being an entrepreneur from day one, because unlike you guys, I did not go to college because I wanted to drive a nice car. So in order to do that, I had to have a job. So my first job out of high school was working in the banking industry. And I thought, I'll be in this till the day I die. Until I realized, as a 19-year-old assistant vice president of the bank, I made $9.25 an hour. So wasn't going to get very far in life with that. So I went to work at Quick Trip, a great company, and did that for a little bit. And then I've always taken ownership in anything I've done. So even working at Quick Trip wasn't my company, but I acted as if it were my company. So I made sure my store was one of the best stores in the area. And then I went to work for a small web hosting company for 3 years and really took ownership of that. Again, I wasn't an owner. And they sold to a company in Atlanta, and I moved to Atlanta. And it was rough, leaving everyone I knew to go to Atlanta, Georgia, to run this big department in the collections business. and it stunk. So I came back, visited a client of mine, also a web hosting company, and told them about what I was going through. And they're like, hey, why don't you come work for us? So I went to work for them in July of 2003. I took them from $250,000 was the best year they had ever done. And within 3 years, I took them to over $1 million. Because I took ownership, and acted as if I owned it. They told me, hey, you're our partner, you're one of the owners, but then every year when it came to profit sharing, I didn't see any of that. So I kept saying, hey, put it on paper. So finally in 2012, there was 2 partners that started the business. One of them was in some financial difficulty. And so I said, hey, how about I just buy you out of this business? So I did. I bought him out in 2012. We ran the company until 2016 when we sold it. But yeah, I would say that I've always had that. And it was my grandmother was my driving force to being an entrepreneur.
So before I kind of move on and allow Ms. Sara Gardner to introduce herself, I'll jump in really quick on the entrepreneurial spirit. Kind of similar to Shaun, my students have already heard my story. I would say I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit. I've already told my students at least once, if not more than once, that I started my first business venture at 12 in the 7th grade, selling bubble gum to my classmates, which was 100% against the rules at school. And I did it until I got caught and I was told not to do it anymore. And my mom was my investor. She bought the gum. So zero money in it, just pure profit. So I think the point of that question is that some people have the entrepreneurial spirit, but I just want to showcase that it can be developed. So if you don't feel it, it doesn't mean that you can't start a business.
Right.
It can come as you grow and you develop yourself. So definitely something that I just wanted to share with you guys. So let's take a really quick step back. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for making the trek down from Maple Woods. I do that trek in the spring, so I totally get it's a little bit of a drive. And especially right after class, we appreciate you joining us. So I'm just going to ask you to introduce yourself and really first and last name, the name of your company, and a brief overview of who you are and what your company does.
And this speech is in line with the class I just taught here this morning at Maple Woods, where we were discussing our professional identity. And so I've rehearsed in my lecture. I'm Sara Gardner, and I am originally from El Salvador. I came to this country in 1980. I was 7 years old, and 28th of October, it just hit me. It's been 43 years since I've been in this country. So my English skills are obviously, I dominate English really well, and spoke Spanish at home, all the time with my parents. We were considered refugees coming from a country whose the political climate, there was a war, if you know anything about my country, in their history. And so we asked for political asylum back in the 80s. There was not, well, there was, but not, it is like the way it dominates it today, the subject matter on illegal immigration. And I was one of those individuals with my parents where we did we swam the Rio Grande, we came here illegally, and we eventually, the Catholic Church took us in, and I grew up in Des Moines, Iowa, where they put us in Catholic schools and got us a lawyer so that we could become legal, because of the dangers of what could happen to us staying in that country. I think, I don't know what you do, but I echo so much of what she just said about that entrepreneur spirit. Our father and my mom always, we never wanted to work for anybody, always wanted to have our own, dictate our own destiny. And so through the 80s, my parents worked, welding. My dad worked at the, we in Des Moines, there's a big plant. And now he used to say Keo floor that he worked in. And it turns out that was the kill floor. He just his accent, he couldn't say it well, killing cows, working for a beef company. And the idea, the work ethic that was instilled in us here working in the United States, that carried on my two older brothers and my little sister. And then, graduated from high school, came to Kansas City, Overland Park's where I landed, and I just wanted to get out of a little small town. Everybody considered back then Des Moines, Iowa, like this little cornfields and all that. And so I wanted to come to something bigger, and I got a 2-year degree in computer programming. I know nothing about computers. And I, through working, I worked at night. My parents took my little sister and my oldest brother back to El Salvador in the 90s. And so I stayed here in Kansas City, and I made this my home. And throughout the 90s, I worked, I needed a job. I didn't have family here. So I eventually got a job working for a law firm, and that opened doors for me that I've always known that, I wanted to be a leader in whatever I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to lead. And somehow the bilingual skills came into play working for this law firm, starting as a receptionist. So through those lawyers, they introduced me to people they knew who owned interpreting agencies. And I started working for one of the lawyers, some family member, he had an interpreting agency. And I did that for a couple of years, and I thought, you know what, this is something I can totally do on my own. And I didn't like that I was making $25 and the owner was making $125, and I'm the one that was getting up in the middle of the night to go interpret at a hospital. So I decided in 1999 to leave the paralegal world with a law firm, and I started my own agency. And I have an agency called Interpreters Inc. And I told my students this morning, the very first year, I thought, you know what, I'm going to own my own agency. I've got, I can take time off whenever I want to. I can, I can do it however I want to work. Do this and that. Well, I only made $4,000 the first year. And no one called me for 6 months. And I think looking back, I think the best advice that I could give myself, my little 28-year-old self, was don't quit your day job because you're going to need something to help you. I was blessed with meeting during that era my husband that I've been with for 26 years, and with the two of us together, his salary, he was in law enforcement, was a police officer, not making much, but we made it after, the $4,000, it didn't come through. So here I am. I have had my business now. It'll be 25 years next year of owning it. I contract with we're about 40 interpreters that work with me. We do different languages. I went back, I realized my Spanish skills needed to be perfected. I needed to speak fluently in both languages. And so I had to go back, get different degrees because computer programming wasn't my thing. So, I just think it does take owning a business is, creating it. It's not just, looking for the wealth that it's going to come overnight. This is 25 years of my life that I've dedicated to owning a business. There's a lot of lack of sleep, lot of sacrifices you make, but if you're, you're passionate, it can happen. It can.
Sure.
Partnership theme again. Okay. So, and thank you so much for introducing and sharing your story. The stories are probably my favorite things about the panel for sure. So our next question is, what was your biggest business challenge when you first started versus your biggest challenge now?
You want me to go?
Go ahead.
So you see on the news, all these people going around and like contractors are like stiffing them and like not coming to complete the job, but taking the money and just different things like that. So for us, our challenge was to get people to trust in us with their homes, their places of business, things like that. And so I had to arise up to the challenge and say, okay, you know what, as long as I keep great communication skills, we show up on time where we say we're going to show up. And if we do the job in the time manner that they're asking us to do, then more than likely, then we can, we'll be successful at this. So my main thing for my business is communication across the board. I am a great communicator. I am a follow-upper. I am a person that just wants to go back and get that feedback on something we could have done better and things like that. And so I was actually scared that we were going to face a lot of challenges of not getting paid, because you get the job done and then the homeowners or whoever, they don't want to pay that bill, because they're like, oh, that I wasn't expecting it to be that much. That if I could tell you how many times I heard that a day. You guys, I mean, I would, if I had a penny for every time I heard it, I'd probably be a millionaire. But at the end of the day, our biggest challenge was trying to figure out how we're going to get people paid. So I came up with this like phase system with my husband, to where when we reach certain phases of the job, that's whenever we require a payment for the next phase to get completed. And then that way, if they don't pay it, no one loses out, because they could hire someone else to finish off where he left off, or so forth. And so that's actually been really, really beneficial to us. Creating that phase system and that milestone system for our business. But at the same time, that was our biggest fear. And my biggest fear, not his so much. His first job, he talked himself, I don't know how this happened. He almost worked for like a week straight, almost for free. He was like, yeah, I'll do that for $500. And he was gone for like a week straight doing this job. And I'm like, don't you ever flabbergast the amount off of your lips. Like, you cannot do that. Like, I had to put it in the computer system, I have to do this. And so also getting him to not just throw out numbers and just throw out things that was just like ridiculous, because he had more time into that job than he did into actually what he got paid. And so then you got to think, that's time away from your family. That's time away from our kids. That's time away from the home. And he almost did that job for free. And that was like one of his second jobs. And I still hold that over his head to this day. That way he doesn't do it again.
So I'll go next. So starting out again, focused on the real estate. I didn't really have a lot of challenges, because again, it was a part-time thing for me. But I would say from the market perspective, so when I got my license in 2008, obviously we had just had a housing crash. Homes were taking 12 to 14 months to sell. You had buyers that wanted to steal everything, so it was, still to this day, I had one buyer, I showed him over 150 homes before they bought them.
Wow.
Because they were listed at 150. Okay, let's offer 80. Well, as a real estate agent, you have to do what your client wants. So even though I told them multiple times, hey, it's not going to work. Finally, they did. They came across one in Blue Springs. Bank of America owned it. And I think it was listed for 185 and they got it for 115. So they lucked out. House probably worth 400,000 at this point. So back then starting out, that was the difficult part. Now, from a team perspective, it's the other people on my team. I feel like a lot of times I want for them more than they want for themselves. So I have a lot of one-on-one coaching with them. And finally, I had a light bulb go off earlier this month. I'm going to focus on, what do you as the individual on my team want? What support do you need from me? Where it's not me setting, hey, you got to sell 24 houses a year to be on my team. If they want to sell 18, then I'm going to focus on helping them sell 18 homes. Mm-hmm. If they want to sell 5, they're probably not going to be on my team, because it doesn't make sense for them to pay me a part of their commission if they're making that little of money. And obviously I'm sure you guys hear interest rates are crazy right now. So that's obviously a very big challenge in my business. And then we are the problem as well, because we like to go out there and post, hey, we sold this house. We had 900 offers. We sold it for $100,000 over asking price. So everyone just expects that. So I go to a listing appointment. I say, hey, I can sell your house for 300. Well, we want 360 because That's what the people down the street got. So, and it doesn't work that way, because if you started at 360, you've priced it too high, no one comes to the house because they expect for it to sell for over that. And then you have that conversation that once you start going down, you end up getting less than if you would have priced it right to begin with. So when I'm sitting in front of a seller, a potential client, I have that conversation with them, and I would rather say, okay, well, if they listed at 300 and they got 360, why don't we go like 315 and hope for the same outcome of getting 360? So communication is very, very big, having the conversations up front, because as an agent, again, we don't make money unless we sell homes. So it's hard to turn a client down. And we are very big in win-win. So if I put a sign in the yard, it's a win for me, because now people are calling me about my sign. The neighbors are seeing that I'm the one selling the home. So there's other opportunities that can come from that. But if I can't sell the home for them, it's not a win for them. So I really focus on that in my communication with them. And every once in a while, let's say I say 310 and like, well, why don't we try 330? And I say, okay, I'm willing to try that, but you have to hear me out. If 2 weeks in, we have no traffic, remember that I'm saying 310 right now. So as long as you're willing to listen to me, then I'm willing to give it a shot, and 9 times out of 10, 2 weeks later, we're having the conversation and we're dropping it down to 310. And then lo and behold, we sell it in a week. So.
I think my biggest challenge at the beginning was, I was young, fresh, and the fear of no one calling me. I needed to be creative in the way that I obtain the customer. And now I look at it eventually with communication, always, I have this mentality, the customer is always right. And granted, they're not most of the time, but you have to find a way to make them feel that way. And you do that through communication, and knowing what to say, when to say it, how to say it. But now my biggest challenge today, 25 years later in the business, is how do I stay young? Because my competition is getting younger.
Yes.
And I need to stay creative with it, because I don't, I can't be waking up at 2 a.m. and think that I'm gonna be, spring chicken at 2 p.m. to do a court hearing as well, and so you got to figure out ways to and just advertise yourself, continue to be present. And I'm not a fan of social media, but I have to embrace that's what the young generation does, and that's how you advertise. So it's just staying young with your competition is the challenge today now for me.
Challenge for me at the beginning was, I knew nothing about financial services, and it wasn't my passion. And I think that gets overrated, where people talk about, if you're going to do a business, you have to be passionate. I don't agree with that. Now, if you are passionate, that is a lot better. You're motivated in a different way when you have passion. But I wasn't passionate about financial services. I wasn't passionate about anything to do with it except for the money, and I knew the potential of the money. But then over time, it grew into, this is probably one of the most passionate things that I do besides my family. When people join our business, they join our business for 3 reasons most of the time. This is, there's other reasons, but number 1 is money. Number 2, and again, these are not in order. Number 2 is the lifestyle. We have you're your own boss. You get to run your company how you want. The company gives us a lot of perks and trips, and it's an amazing company. But then the third is the crusade, what we do. I am passionate about what I do for the people my clients. I'm passionate about putting them in a position to create wealth. A lot of people don't realize you've been told to work hard, save your money, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But if you go look at the numbers, wealth is gained by investments, whether it's in houses or in the real estate or in the market, or somebody dies and leaves you an inheritance. You know, I know we look at Elon Musk and Oprah Winfrey, people that are, you know, that is a anomaly. That does not happen every day. Most wealthy people gain their wealth because somebody died and left them money. And let me give y'all one that you guys probably know about. Kim Kardashian. A lot of people don't realize that her dad left her, not the mom, left her $100 million. When he died, he had $100 million. Then she became Kim Kardashian. All the stuff happened after that.
Right.
So, and I yes, I actually have something that if I could find it in my phone, I'll show you guys where I had screenshotted an article that talked about her dad leaving her $100 million. That's why they're worth billions now, not the other stuff that we know. They got the money, and then the other stuff happened that created who they are today. So,
But isn't her dad the guy that became a woman?
No,
No.
that's Kate.
That was
No,
her step.
that's her stepdad. Her actual dad
her dad was the
was a lawyer.
attorney.
And even though, and let me say this too, when he died, he was worth maybe 8 or 9 million. And like, I think OJ Simpson was his main client.
Best friend, too.
He was worth 20 or 30 million. And then they had there was another family friend. It's all in this article I read, where there was a plastic surgeon friend, Dr. 9021, whatever, used to do the plastic surgery. He was worth 100 million. And these are just like these people all lived on the same block. And when he died, Kim and them was worth more than all these people just because their dad died. You know, so just to give you an idea that the money was built off the dad leaving that type of money, and then they grew it to something else. So just quick little side story.
Well, that is a perfect segue into my next question. What are your views on serving others, and how does that impact how you do business?
That's everything about what I do. I think about what I just explained to you guys. My whole anybody I sit down with, I'm looking to put them in a position, because if you lose a loved one, that husband, wife, mom, dad, that's devastating. It's even more devastating if you lose the breadwinner and you don't have any money. You got to go ask for GoFundMe's.
Yeah.
And so when I first got into this business, it was just about life insurance, but then it grew into other parts of the investments, the teaching other people that you don't have to be an expert on finance to be able to do this. Because one of the things that I have things that I know how to do, I'm great in, but then I have mentors that are better in other positions. When I sit down with a client, I handle the part that I can handle, and then I go to my mentor, my business partner, he does the rest. And so we have a team that no matter what any individual needs, we're able to fulfill those needs. But here's the thing, the reason why, again, that I love what I do is because eventually everybody's gonna die. And when you do, your family is gonna, it's not if, it's when.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you have those things in place, you have a better comfort. I don't want to die for 100 more years, but when I do, my family will be in a much better position. I want them to be, I want to be able to enjoy some of it while I'm here, but if I'm not, I know they will, and my children's children will, and their children's children will.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm thinking about when I sit down with whoever I sit down with, is I'm creating what I know that I'm creating for myself, is for generation, like she spoke about, generational wealth. And if I wasn't doing this, I don't know where else it would come from. So
Nice. I'll go next. So as I said, I didn't come from much. So as a kid, I experienced bankruptcy, foreclosure, eviction. So my team, we have core values, and our number one core value is relationship first mindset. So every person we meet, we want to build a relationship with them. We want to help them, as Mike just said, sometimes I'm selling someone's house because their family member died. Someone's going through a divorce, they've had a new baby, they want a bigger house. So coming from what I came from, I can always empathize and sympathize with these people, and by putting them first and not worrying about what money I make. You know, I will cheat myself before I cheat anyone else. 18 months ago, I came up with a program where I can go to someone's house and I don't just give them one option for selling it. I'll give them 2, 3, 4 options to put as much money in their pocket as possible. So over that last 18 months, I've had over 20 homes that I've put my own money into up front to improve their home, to make them more money. So I went to one in Independence last week where we can list it as it sits for 200,000. We can do a bare minimum and sell it for 220, or we can put 22,000 of my money in it. We can sell it for 260. So at 260, when you pay that stuff back, you're going to make more than listing it at 200 before any expenses. So those are things I've been doing for people. I did one in Independence about 3 months ago that I had $55,000 of my money tied up in. Went over to meet them because they had some personal property left in the house and we were getting ready to stage it. So we need to know what was trash, what they were taking. And as we're standing there in the driveway, she starts bawling. I said, "Hey, what's wrong, Kelly?" And she said, "Well, I got this letter yesterday." And she gives me a letter she was being foreclosed on. And her house, this was August the 8th. Her house was going to be sold on the courthouse steps on August the 17th. So 9 days. We're not even on the market yet. I can't sell a house in 9 days. So at that point, I had to make a business decision plus a relationship decision. So I went and I paid $15,000 to save their house from being foreclosed. So now I've got 70 grand tied up in the house. You know, but at the end, we were able to sell the house. They were the same thing. If we would have sold it day one, they would have had to have paid about $20,000 to sell the house. Instead, when they walked on day 94, they walked with $26,000 in their pocket. So those are the things that we're able to do by putting a relationship first. So.
Can you read the question one more time?
I'm so glad.
Sorry, yes.
These guys are talking to me. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
What are your views on serving others and how does that impact how you do business?
So for me, it's weird. It's a little bittersweet. So I can come off as really aggressive. I don't know if that has to do with my police background, my law enforcement background or what, but I'm just a straightforward individual. And so sometimes I have to find myself, you know, not toning it down because I'm not rude. I say please and thank you and I'm smiling, but like my tone sometimes can be aggressive or something like that. So what I've learned to do is try to change that and be cognitive of it so that way it's not. And I think that that's what helps us with our business. Now, my husband, on the other hand, he would prefer if he could just not talk to people in general. He doesn't want to deal with people, but it also helps though when we build those relationships because we have like this lady, her name is Evelyn. She just called, we did her house a couple months ago, but her husband passed. She's like 80 something years old and she's trying to put all this money into this house. And then she looks at my husband and says, "Why should I put all this money into it? Because I'm about to die." And he was like, "You said it, not me," kind of thing. And what happened though was he built that relationship with her over those few days. And that's she just called him the other day, like, "Hey, can you come help me do something?" And he's the person that he wants to help anybody if he can, especially older women that, like, you know, if they can't do for themselves. And so he has found himself tweaking himself as well to, you know, be not more of an introvert. So that's how it's kind of, we're both learning every day, but my aggression or my tone sometimes, like I said, but I'm working on it with my communication skills. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I serve my clients by responding right away to them because I see, and I think my clients are a little different than maybe how you guys have them, but I deal with lawyers, judges, hospital administration, you know, owners of businesses, you know, public schools, the teachers and all that. And so I can't really put too much of a personal touch to it because I can't, you know, tell a judge, you know, be close to them in that way, because it's just, we follow, we have a code of ethics that we follow as interpreters where we have to remain impartial, but I do, the way I serve them best is by making them number one and responding as quickly as possible to them. Any phone call, any text, any that I think drives a lot of business for me, because they know that I'm attentive to whatever request they want. And then it also, you know, goes with, I indicate that I'm a 24-hour-a-day service, which I think, you know, when you're that way, you have to really be there attentive to them. And it has helped me throughout. And that, I think, aspect in the long run has helped me maintain the customers I've had. I mean, I've got hospitals and courts that I've had for 25 years from the day I started, because I, you know, I hold their hands with whatever language needs that they need. And in turn, while I get the whole generational wealth and I want to leave money for my 2 kids, I am of the belief, and he probably will never, he'd be like, yeah, I probably don't want to talk to her as a client. I'm of the belief that you create the wealth so that you could have it in your living years. And so
My
you could
husband.
live comfortably. But I am married to a man who left, he was a detective at police department and then became an attorney. You know, his idea is, you know, we need to save for that rainy day. We need IRAs and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm trying to understand, you know, at some point we can't carry that with us when we die. And so I want to share my wealth with my children. Do I make them work hard? Yes. They go to school, they pay their bills. If you're going to live with me, you're going to work as well. And, you know, together we create this, that we do it together. But yeah, I think that communication leads to making sure you keep up with your clients so that you can enjoy that wealth. Okay.
Well, so I did want to leave time for Q&A here at the end. So this concludes our formal panel discussion. So now I'd like to open up the panel for our Q&A session. Do we have questions online, or do we have questions from anyone that's in the room?
I'm not seeing any here.
Okay.
Yeah, I have questions for pretty much everybody. We can choose, I guess. Shaun, what do you think most sellers accept when it comes to financing when offered from investors? Like, what do you see like the most common terms?
So it's going to depend on the home. Okay. So if I go to a home that, you know, I notice a lot of wood rot, peeling paint, missing handrails, things like that, it's going to be tough to go FHA or VA, because as part of the appraisal process, they do a safety inspection. So those things would be, when an appraiser does an appraisal, they would say, our appraised value is X, subject to these following repairs. Plus, like with VA, unfortunately, there's a more limited appraisal pool because they take longer, they get paid less. So like the really good appraisers, they don't do VA appraisals. So it's hard there. To me, someone getting a VA loan, they deserve the house more than anyone. They fought for our country, right? So they deserve it. But, you know, typically cash is obviously one that they really look at. Next would be conventional, because in my real estate career, I've only seen one conventional appraisal have a subject to. And I think that guy thought it was in the FHA because it was peeling paint and it was a handrail. But yeah, I would say the last time I looked at the statistics, only 23% of homes sold VA and FHA combined. So, and then it was about 50-50 split between cash and conventional.
And then the second question I have for you is, I'm sure you're aware of like the whole damages that were given to all those homeowners a long time ago.
Sure.
For recently, what is your opinion on that? Because I know that your company settled, right?
Yeah, so ReMax did settle part of it for 56 million.
Yeah.
So they got up really cheap. So yeah, it was a class action lawsuit where a seller started the class action lawsuit because when we go to a listing appointment, we're talking about co-oping with another agent. So we'll list your home for X percentage, and then we will give the co-oping agent X percentage. So the seller said, well, why am I paying the buyer's agent? Is what it all came from. And, a lot of it comes down to communication. Okay. So there's agents that go to a house and they say, well, the standard, there is no standard. Everything's negotiable. So just like I told you guys with my program, every listing appointment I go to, I have a listing option sheet. You choose what you want. Yeah, I mean, 99% of the time we're going to co-op with another agent. So we're determining the commission up front. We are agreeing to then split it with someone that brings the buyer. What they might do is you may see lenders saying, hey, when a buyer buys a home, because a lot of people buy homes, they barely have the down payment. So they don't have the down payment plus being able to pay their real estate agent, right? So I think lenders will say, if you buy a house for $200,000 and your buyer's agency with your agent says you're going to pay them 2.5%, we'll let you finance that $5,000 in that example. And it won't have to appraise for that amount. It's like when I'm negotiating for a buyer that maybe doesn't have their down payment and their closing costs. So I may say, hey, our offer is $200,000, but I need you to give us a $6,000 seller paid closing cost credit to offset our buyer's expenses. So it's funny because I was listening to a video of a guy I respect greatly in the business. His name's Jared James. He's a big coach. And he says it's kind of funny that this lawsuit came from attorneys who charge a very high rate. So he said NAR should turn around and flip it and sue the bar. So I don't know what will come from it. And again, it's about the communication because there is no standard, so that's where these agents got our industry in trouble by saying this is standard. Trust me, I get the calls all the time. Hey, I know it's typically 6%. And I say, well, here's what's great about me. You get to choose what percent. I have options. So I've done listings at 4%. I've done listings at 12%. Because again, it's when I'm making this financial investment into their home and I'm just getting reimbursed, I'm going to charge a higher rate because I'm going to make a return on my money.
That's right.
But every time they profit more. So that's, and that my team, trust me, they came to me after that day and they're like, what are we going to do? I'm like, we're going to communicate. I don't think, it's going to go through appeals. That's a big $1.8 billion. It's a big number, so.
The other question I have for you is, how big is sales in your role?
How big is sales in real estate?
How those fit?
Being comfortable talking to people, being able to listen when you hear someone more or less saying, hey, I'll work with you if. I think that's big, but in my business, homes sell themselves. It's more customer service. Listen to your people and provide them the service they want. Some people need a lot of handholding. Some don't want any. Some people want you right by their side. Other people want you 8 feet behind them. So like when I'm showing a house, I'm always 6 to 8 foot behind people and I'm listening. Because what I tell people is I want you to buy a home that you love. So when I'm listening, I hear them say, oh, I love this. Let's say I'm paying attention for settling cracks and I don't see what they love. I stop right there and say, hey, I heard the magic word. What is it that you love? Or, hey, I really like this. Or, hey, I like this home, but I don't like X. Well, when we talk about X, is X something that could change? Okay, I don't like this wall color. We can change that. I don't like the fact that we back up to that power line. We can't change that. Hey, I love this house, but I hate how small the lot is. We can't change that. So those are the things I'm listening for. So having a sales background would help. But to me, it's more customer service focused than anything. I was mentoring a young gentleman one time that was new to our brokerage when I was the recruiter. And I knew this guy. He was a good friend of mine's nephew. And I remember he had a deal that went sideways because The lender didn't know who the title company was. He was communicating with the wrong title company. And he said to me, he's like, well, it's not really my job. And I'm like, oh man, you are so wrong. It is absolutely 1000% our job to navigate everything, make sure everyone is communicating and everyone is on the same page, because that is why a consumer hires a professional. Because we know this, it's just like turning utilities on your name the day of closing. It's common sense to us, but it's not common sense to the consumer. So communicating to that, it's very big. So yeah, I mean, sales to me, yeah, you've got to have a comfort with asking people for business, but it's not mandatory.
Sure.
Police officers, nurses, people like that are the best real estate agents because they got into those positions, not for money. They got into it to help people. School teachers make incredible real estate agents. Used car salesman, not so much. So.
We'll take our next question online. So this comes from Dante. A question for everyone would be, how did you market or scale your company?
What a market.
You guys go ahead. I've talked too much.
So for my marketing, what I did was honestly, like I still am right now, but I'm up scrolling all night sometimes. I'm looking on every forum I can to try to get that business and generate it. The biggest thing though is my husband, his name is actually really big in the industry to where like a lot of people already have, like they know who Adam Corbin is. And so actually that's kind of our slogan is like, you'll be able to say Adam did it because it really like, because he came up under some of the top foremen in Kansas City area. And that's who trained them and all that. But then I also had to step back and look at my market, and your guys's generation is like the next generation of this. And so like I had to do things that I was uncomfortable, like not knowing about, but learning about. Social media marketing, next door app marketing, creating a website. And then I also like even got a QR code. I was like, what is this new QR code stuff? And so, it's on my card. And so just trying to think of all of those things outside of the box to be able to market, because your generation likes your cell phone. So you guys are going to find it easier on the card to scan it than versus, me and his age is like, oh, let's give them a card and our name is on it thinking you're going to call. So just trying to figure out how to market the different groups. And so Facebook is like one of our hugest forums. That's about, and word of mouth. So in carpentry and construction, anything like word of mouth is like a huge deal. So that's why it's so important to stay communicated, stay on time with your jobs and doing those things like we do, because if you get it done a week earlier, sometimes there's a bonus in there, if you go over, you're going to end up paying that person for going over if you bidded the job on this. And so we're trying to always just stay on task and then starting to like market that way. It's a lot of smartphone stuff.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
With my business is what we call a warm market business. It's word of mouth. It's I helped you out and then you refer me to people, because if I'm dealing with your finances, I'm dealing with your family's legacy, you got to be able to trust me. And if you don't know me, well, maybe your brother, your sister, someone you trust knows me. And if you trust them, then they'll listen to me. Now it becomes the customer service part. Once I'm talking to them, I have to know what I'm talking about. I have to explain things where they have trust that I know what I'm doing. So the way you scale your business also, what we do is the numbers. The numbers don't lie. Most people don't have enough money for retirement. Most people don't realize that Social Security is something you should Google. Social Security is not guaranteed anymore. It's actually going to be drastically cut or gone altogether. Over there's, the economists are saying that. So now here's the question I say to people. Some people say, oh, that's not true. Maybe it's not true, but I'm not going to wait to see. So what I talk to people about is this, and I'll ask you guys this question. If you do get Social Security, but you sat down with me and I helped you have an extra $200,000 or $300,000 at retirement. Are you mad at that? So even though you may not believe what the economists say, I still want you to be in a position to be able to have money when you retire, because here's the problem in the world right now. Believe it or not, people are living longer than they have before. And the projected numbers that you thought that you were going to need, those are old numbers.
Mhm.
You know, people are living in their 80s. You know,
Mhm.
do you have enough money to retire and then still be able to live a comfortable life? So what all I do is I talk to people about that and say, who do you know that also needs to hear this? Who do you care about? Who, if something happened, are you the only one in your family with money? Because that's one of the things that I'm growing in my family. Well, if there's 5 different families and only one of them have money, if we have something happens where there's money that's needed, there's only coming from one source. So my job is to help my sisters who are married, well, one of them are married, my nieces and nephews. I'm all showing them how to start investing now and start having money. Don't wait late in life like me. I want you, I'm 49 years old. I'll be 50 on my birthday in February. And we've only been doing this roughly 7 years. And I wish I would have been doing it longer, because I would have more of a, I feel like I could have done more, you know? And so the question was, how do you scale and how do you market your business? It's through people. It's still, before all this social media, word of mouth, people talking to people, you doing a good job with that one client. You build your business one client at a time. Don't try to do, you know, get him straight first, get him taken care of. And I promise you that will lead to more clients.
Mhm.
So.
And I echo that. In my line of work, I tell my interpreters, our reputation is everything. The way you market yourself is, I refer you the business, you go under my company name and you do your job as best as you can. And you know how a dog marks his territory, mark your territory in some way with that customer. I'm not peeing on him, but you know, you go and you show yourself to them that you can do this work, and you treat them with respect, and you know, that you facilitated that communication, and that customer, and you tell them, hey, here's my business card. I work through Sara Gardner and her agency. The next time you need an interpreter, give them my name. And, you know, I get attorneys, you know, customers that like, hey, I work with this interpreter, send me that interpreter. It's because your reputation follows you from what you do with that client.
Yeah.
So real quick, as far as marketing goes, I mean, Google, my business is huge in my
Yeah.
business. Asking for reviews, of course, referrals. We have a great program where we love on our clients. We call it our MVP program. So if someone refers business to us, we just from the referral, we'll send them a Starbucks card preloaded with $50. We do monthly giveaways. We have a trivia. It's called Fun Day Monday. So we love on our clients. Next Tuesday, we have an event called Pie Day at my office, where I've purchased about 450 pies for our clients. From a scaling standpoint, in my business, leverage is key. So I only have so many hours in a day. In 2019, I sold 88 homes and I recruited 36 agents. So for those of you that don't know, in real estate, the average real estate agent sells 6 homes a year. Okay. So yes.
Wow.
So I sold 88 and was going crazy. I was coaching my son's sports. I had no time. So then I hired an assistant. I hired a buyer's agent, you know, so I've leveraged myself. I now have a team with the 3 additions. I have 9 agents, an admin, and a transaction coordinator. So leverage when you're an entrepreneur, you only have so many hours. Leveraging yourself where you can do the income producing activities to build your business is very, very vital. Marketing, I spend a lot of money buying Zillow leads. Most people in my business hate Zillow. Personally, I know it's the #1 tool that consumers use.
Yeah.
So I buy leads on it and we do a great job converting those leads. In my business, instant satisfaction is huge. So answer your phone. If someone wants to see a house, schedule the showing. Go and show them the house. I don't care if they're pre-approved. I don't care about any of that. Go meet them because that's what they're looking for. Because in my business, people buy leads all the time and only 20% of them answer their phone.
Yeah.
So they're just throwing money away. So those are the things I've done to market, again, asking for reviews, testimonials. Those things are very vital in my business. I have 3 Kia Souls that are wrapped with my face that drive around town all the time. There's one out there right now. I personally don't like driving it. I drive my truck. One of my agents needed my truck today. My sister drives one, so it's really funny. She drives around with my face on the car. So that's big. People will text, "Hey, why are you over here?" I'm not. I'm at my office right now. That's someone on my team. So I have billboards throughout Blue Springs. Things like that are what I'm doing to market.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank each of our panelists for taking the time out of their day to share their expertise and experience with our students. I know that you guys are very, very, very busy. You have a lot to do. I'd like to thank our students, our faculty, staff that have joined us, and those who have helped make this day successful and possible. I really do appreciate you. For my panelists, would you mind sharing how those who are interested might be able to get in contact with you?
Sure. So I have business cards. If anyone would like a business card, you can call me anytime, pick my brain about real estate, entrepreneur, starting a business. I've started several businesses in my career. I have cards. My email address is really easy, Shaun@ShaunAshley.com. But yeah, anytime, reach out to me, call me, text me, email me. If I'm in meetings, I don't answer, but I'll get back with you when I'm done, for sure.
And for those online, I don't know if you can see the card or not. It's Shaun, SHAUN, and Ashley has an E. There's a couple of ways to spell both Shaun and Ashley.
Or Google me.
Here we go. Okay, I'm sorry.
And I'm the same way. If you just Google Sara Gardner, SARAGARDNER, and then Interpreters Inc. Very
That's
simple.
nice.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
No, there's your cards.
Oh, they look, yeah, you already gave me one.
Thank you. I'll take one.
Absolutely.
My daughter's looking for a home.
Absolutely, there you go.
Just Google, then, I have a website. For me.
For me, I'm on Facebook, Corbin's Construction. Look for this emblem, this logo. And then I also have cards with a QR code on it.
Get into that. Yeah.
Same with me, business cards, Facebook, also have a website, so, email, so it's same, real simple.
Okay, well, I guess our time together has come to an end. Thanks again to both my panelists and all of our attendees. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Hope
Thank
to
you,
see
guys.
next year.
Thank you, guys.
If anybody has any questions that they want to ask privately, I'll stick around for a few.
I can as well.